The observation deck of Unity 7 Station offered a view that should have been beautiful. Stars scattered across the darkness like diamonds on black silk. But Captain J1 Park saw none of that beauty. His eyes were locked on the massive alien ships gathering at the edge of human territory. There were dozens of them. Each one was 3 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. They hung in space like silent threats, their hulls gleaming with technologies humanity barely understood. The Galactic Council had arrived, and they had not come in peace. Behind him, Dr. Hannah Kim worked frantically at her terminal. She was Earth's top expert on alien species, but right now her expertise felt useless. The data scrolling across her screen told a story she did not want to believe. "Captain," she said quietly, "I found something in the old records." "The Council has done this before." J1 turned to face her. His weathered face showed no surprise. He had expected something like this. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 50 years, and already the older species looked down on them. They called humans violent, primitive, dangerous. "Show me," he said. Hannah brought up holographic images. 17 different species, all now extinct. Each one had received the same message from the Council. Each one had been given the same choice: submit or face consequences. "They wiped them all out," Hannah whispered. "Every single one." Before J1 could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The Council was broadcasting on all frequencies. Ambassador Dae-Young Lee's voice crackled over the intercom from the diplomatic chamber. "All personnel, stand by. The Council is addressing Earth." J1 moved quickly to the main communications hub. Dozens of officers and crew members had already gathered, their faces pale with worry. On the main screen, a crystalline being shimmered into view. This was Overlord Vestara, commander of the Council's military forces. "Humans of Earth," the alien's voice sounded like breaking glass. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding your species. Your kind has demonstrated an unacceptable level of aggression. Your history is soaked in blood. Your wars have consumed your own world for thousands of years." J1 felt his jaw tighten. Yes, humanity had a violent past, but they had also built cities, created art, and reached for the stars despite everything. Vexthara continued, "Therefore, the Council demands the following. You will dismantle 90% of your military vessels within 72 hours. You will surrender all mining rights in your solar system to Council authority. You will submit to Council oversight of all weapons development. Failure to comply will result in immediate economic sanctions." The screen changed. Now it showed Supreme Arbitrator Qualm, an ancient creature that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. It was the oldest being in the known galaxy, and it regarded humanity with obvious disgust. "You are children playing with weapons you do not understand," Qualm said. "Accept our guidance or suffer the consequences of your arrogance." The transmission ended. Silence fell over the communications hub. Then, everyone started talking at once. Some officers argued for compliance. Others demanded immediate military action. Fear filled the room like poison gas. J1 raised his hand, and the room fell silent. "Get me Ambassador Lee." Minutes later, Dae-Young Lee's face appeared on a private channel. The ambassador looked exhausted. He had just spent 6 hours in direct negotiation with the Council representatives, and it had clearly gone poorly. "They laughed at me, Captain," Dae-Young said bitterly. "I presented our case, showed them our progress, explained our peaceful intentions. They laughed. They said, we are too stupid to know how dangerous we are. Can we fight them?" J1 asked bluntly. Dae-Young shook his head. "Their fleet outguns us 10-1. Their shields can withstand anything we can throw at them. Their weapons can crack planets. Fighting them would be suicide. Then we surrender?" "I don't know," Dae-Young admitted. The council back on Earth is meeting now. But J1, I think this is a trap. I think they want us to refuse so they have an excuse to destroy us. J1 had thought the same thing. He looked at Hana, who nodded grimly. Her research confirmed it. Keep negotiating, J1 ordered. Buy us time. I need to prepare the fleet. Prepare for what? Ji-young asked. We cannot win this. Maybe not, J1 said. But we can make them regret starting it. Over the next 24 hours, J1 worked without rest. He called in favors from every captain in the human fleet. He moved ships into defensive positions around Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. He activated every weapons platform, charged every defensive grid, and prepared every soldier for the fight of their lives. Lieutenant Yuna Choi reported to his office. She was one of the best fighter pilots in the fleet, young and fearless. Sir, my squadron is ready. Just give the word. I hope I don't have to, J1 said honestly. Hannah continued her research, digging deeper into the council's history. What she found made her sick. The 17 extinct species had all been smaller civilizations, just like humanity. All of them had resources the council wanted. All of them had been eliminated under the pretense of being dangerous or unstable. They're going to kill us no matter what we do, she told J1. Surrender or fight, the result is the same. Then we fight, J1 said simply. At least that way we die on our feet. On the third day, Earth's government made their decision. They would accept the council's terms. The vote had been close, driven by fear and desperation. Ambassador Dae-young was ordered to sign the surrender documents immediately. But before he could, something happened. Commander Han Wu-kang had been running silent reconnaissance missions near the council fleet in his stealth ship, the Silent Shadow. He had been monitoring their communications, watching their movements, looking for any advantage. What he found was damning. Captain, Han Wu's urgent transmission cut through all channels. The council fleet is powering weapons. All of them. They're preparing to fire. On what target? J1 demanded. All of them, sir. Earth, Mars, Europa, Titan. Every human settlement. They're going to attack in 10 minutes regardless of our answer. The ultimatum had been a lie. The negotiations had been theater. The council had planned genocide from the beginning. J1 felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear. Not anymore. Something else. Something the council would soon learn to recognize. Rage. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. The enemy is preparing to fire. Authorization code Park Alpha 7. Release all weapons safeties. Prepare for full engagement. Across human space, warships powered up. Fighter squadrons launched. Defense platforms armed themselves. Millions of humans looked to the sky and saw death coming. But they also saw their fleet rising to meet it. J-1 looked at the screen showing the Council Armada. 300 ships against humanity's 30. Impossible odds. He smiled grimly. Let's teach them what humans do when backed into a corner. The council ships opened fire without warning. Marsdom 7 disappeared in a flash of white light. One moment, 2 million humans lived and worked there. The next moment, there was only debris and ash floating in the thin Martian atmosphere. The attack had been so sudden, so overwhelming, that nobody even had time to scream. On Unity 7, J1 watched the destruction with cold fury. Hana stood beside him, tears streaming down her face as colony after colony went silent. Europa Station, Titan Outpost, the mining facilities in the asteroid belt, all gone within minutes. They're not even trying to capture anything, Hana said through her sobs. They're just killing everyone. J1 activated his command console. All fleet units, engage at will. Protect the civilian evacuation ships. Make every shot count. The human fleet surged forward. 30 warships against 300. The numbers were impossible, but nobody hesitated. They could not. Behind them were billions of humans who needed time to reach the emergency bunkers, to board evacuation transports, to say goodbye to their families. Lieutenant Yuna Choi led her fighter squadron straight into the heart of the Council formation. Her voice crackled over the comm. Dragon Squadron, weapons free. Show these things what we're made of. Her squadron scattered into attack patterns humanity had practiced for decades. Weaving, dodging, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. The Council ships were massive and powerful, but they were also slow to react. Their targeting computers had been designed for fighting other large ships, not small, fast fighters. Yuna locked onto a Council destroyer and fired everything she had. Missiles streaked across space, followed by plasma bursts and kinetic rounds. The destroyer's shields absorbed most of it, but some shots got through. She saw small explosions blossom along its hull. "We're hurting them!" she shouted triumphantly. Then the destroyer's point defense systems came online. 3 of her squadron members vanished in quick succession, vaporized by energy weapons that moved faster than human reflexes could track. Yuna pulled hard on her controls, barely avoiding the same fate. "Dragon Squadron, break off and regroup," she ordered, her voice strained. But there was nowhere safe to regroup. The battlefield was chaos. Council ships were everywhere, their weapons carving through human vessels like they were made of paper. Admiral Bajora Song commanded the Luna Defense Fleet from her flagship. She was a veteran of the border wars, the conflicts humanity had fought against pirate factions in the outer system. She knew how to make hard choices. "Target their weapon systems," she ordered her gunnery crews. "Forget the shields. Aim for their gun ports when they fire. That's when they're vulnerable." It was a desperate tactic, but it worked. Her ships focused their fire on single targets, waiting for the split second when Council weapons discharged and their protective fields weakened. 2 Council frigates took critical damage, spinning out of formation with fires burning across their hulls. But for every Council ship damaged, 3 human vessels were destroyed. The math was brutal and unforgiving. On Earth, billions watched the battle through live feeds. They saw their defenders dying. They saw the overwhelming power of the enemy. Panic spread through cities. Riots broke out. Some people demanded immediate surrender. Others armed themselves and prepared for ground invasion. Commander Haiyan Wu Kang kept the silent shadow hidden in the debris field of a destroyed mining station. His stealth systems kept him invisible to Council sensors, and he used that advantage to study the enemy. What he saw was both terrifying and enlightening. The Council fleet moved with perfect coordination. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was. They never fired on each other, never got in each other's way, never wasted a single shot. It was like watching a dance, choreographed by a computer because that was exactly what it was. Haiyan Wu detected quantum communication signals linking every Council ship together. They were all connected to a central command network, all taking orders from a master computer aboard the largest vessel. That flagship was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, and protected by shields that could probably withstand a nuclear blast. "Captain Park," Haiyan Wu transmitted on a secured channel. "I found their weakness. They're all networked together. If we can take out their flagship or disrupt their communications, the whole fleet loses coordination." J1's response was immediate. "Can you reach the flagship?" "Maybe. But sir, even if I get close, my weapons won't scratch those shields." "Then we find another way," J1 said. "Keep watching them. Learn everything you can." The battle raged for 6 hours. Human casualties climbed into the millions. Every colony in the outer system had been destroyed. The Council fleet was now advancing toward Earth itself, brushing aside the defending warships like they were toys. Yuna's squadron was down to 5 fighters from the original 20. They were out of missiles, low on fuel, and running on pure adrenaline. But they kept fighting. One more pass, Yuna told her team. We target the flagship. Even if we just scratch the paint, we make them know we were here. Her squadron dove toward the massive Council flagship. Defensive fire lit up the space around them. 2 more fighters exploded. Yuna and her remaining wingmen pushed through, their targeting computers screaming warnings about the impossibility of their mission. They opened fire at point-blank range, dumping every remaining weapon they had. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, even the emergency flares meant for signaling rescue ships. Everything the flagship's shields held. But then something unexpected happened. One of the kinetic rounds, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, hit a weak point where 2 shield generators overlapped. It punched through and struck the flagship's bridge tower. The damage was minimal, just a small crater on the armored surface. But it proved something important. The Council ships were not invincible. Yuna pulled her fighter away, laughing with exhausted relief. She had survived. Her wingmen had survived. And they had wounded the giant. J1 saw the hit from his command deck. He saw the momentary flicker in the flagship's shields. His tactical mind immediately understood the implications. All ships, he broadcast, concentrate all fire on the flagship's shield intersection points. Coordinates uploading now. Hit them with everything simultaneously. The human fleet, what remained of it, turned as one. Every working weapon locked onto the flagship. J1 counted down. 3, 2, 1, fire. Hundreds of weapons discharged together. The combined firepower slammed into the flagship's shields like a tsunami. The shields held for 3 seconds, then 4, then 5. Then they failed. The flagship's hull took direct hits. Explosions rippled across its surface. It was not destroyed, not even close, but it was damaged. Actually damaged. The Council fleet stopped advancing. For the first time in the battle, they hesitated. Overlord Vexthara broadcast on all frequencies. The crystalline being's voice carried something humans had never heard from it before. Confusion. You are primitives, Vexthara said. You should not be able to harm us. This is impossible. J1 responded, his voice hard as iron. You came to our home. You killed our people. You wanted to see how humans fight. Now, you're learning. He cut the transmission and turned to his officers. Pull all ships back to Earth's orbital defense grid. Evacuate every civilian we can. And someone get me Hyanwu. We need that flagship's communication network down, and we need it down now. Hana looked at the casualty reports, her face pale. We've lost 15 million people, J1. 15 million. I know, he said quietly. And we're going to lose millions more before this is over. But if we don't stop them here, we lose everyone. Every human everywhere. Admiral Ba'urasong's voice came over the comm. Captain, I'm reading Council troop transports moving into position. I think they're preparing to invade Earth directly. J1 nodded grimly. He had expected this. The Council wanted humanity exterminated, and they would not stop until it was done. Then we make them pay for every meter of ground, he said. Signal all planetary defense forces. Prepare for ground combat. And remember, they might have better technology, but they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're defending our homes. In orbit above Earth, the Council fleet reorganized. Their formation was still perfect, still coordinated. But now they were more cautious. They had learned that humans, primitive and outgunned as they were, could bite back. And that small hesitation gave humanity the one thing they desperately needed. Time. Dr. Taeyang Shin had been considered crazy by most of the scientific community. His theories about weaponizing civilian technology were called reckless and unethical. But now, with millions dead in Earth facing extinction, nobody was calling him crazy anymore. "Captain Park," Taeyang said over the Emergency Science Council meeting, "our military weapons are not strong enough. But we have other tools. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids. Fusion reactors that power our cities. Cargo haulers with engines powerful enough to move mountains. We can turn all of it into weapons." Jae-won listened carefully. Around him, his senior officers looked skeptical, but he saw the logic. The council expected conventional warfare. They had prepared for military tactics refined over millions of years. But humanity had only been in space for 50 years. They had no refined tactics, no established doctrine. They only had desperation and creativity. "Do it," Jae-won ordered. "You have 6 hours to retrofit whatever you can." Admiral Song, coordinate with Taeyang. "I want every civilian ship in the solar system converted into something that can hurt the enemy." Across human space, engineers went to work. Mining ships designed for peaceful resource extraction were hastily modified. Their industrial lasers, capable of cutting through solid rock, were redirected and focused. Power capacitors were overcharged far beyond safe limits. Nobody cared about safety anymore. They just needed weapons that worked. Cargo haulers were loaded with debris from destroyed stations. Rocks, metal fragments, ice chunks, anything with mass. Their powerful engines could accelerate these makeshift. Missiles to devastating speeds. Fusion reactors were pulled from damaged stations and rigged with remote detonators. Each one became a bomb powerful enough to vaporize anything within a kilometer. While the engineers worked, Jae-won called in Special Operative Soo-jin Nam. She commanded Earth's Black Operations Unit. Soldiers trained for missions nobody wanted to talk about. Sabotage, infiltration, assassination. "I need you to board their ships," Jae-won told her bluntly. Soo-jin raised an eyebrow. "Their shields will vaporize any boarding craft." "Then don't use boarding craft. Use stealth pods. Get close during the chaos of battle. Find airlocks or hull breaches. Get inside and cause damage however you can." "That's suicide, sir." "Everything we're doing is suicide," Jae-won replied. "But if we're going to die anyway, we might as well make it hurt for them." Soo-jin smiled coldly. "I'll need 20 volunteers." "You'll have 200, Jae-won promised. The council fleet resumed their advance after an 8-hour pause. They approached more carefully now, their shields at maximum, their weapons sweeping space for threats. They expected desperate attacks from the human fleet. They got something else entirely. The first mining ship appeared from behind Earth's moon, accelerating at full thrust directly toward a council cruiser. The cruiser's weapons opened fire, tearing the mining ship apart. But the wreckage continued forward, and mounted on its hull were 3 overcharged industrial lasers. They fired simultaneously. The lasers burned through the cruiser's shields in a sustained blast that lasted 15 seconds. When they finally overloaded and exploded, the cruiser's hull had a hole melted clean through it. The ship vented atmosphere and began tumbling out of control. "Again," Jae-won ordered. "All modified mining ships, execute attack pattern theta." Dozens of civilian vessels, never meant for combat, threw themselves at the council fleet. Most were destroyed before reaching their targets. But enough got through. The council ships took damage, real damage, from weapons they had not anticipated. Overlord Vextharis' transmission was filled with something that sounded like outrage. "You are using civilian vessels as weapons. This violates every rule of civilized warfare." Jae-won's response was simple. "You killed our civilians first. Now everything is a weapon." The cargo haulers came next. They released their payloads of debris at high velocity, creating clouds of shrapnel that the Council sensors could not track individually. The small fragments peppered the Council ships, overwhelming their point defense systems. Damage accumulated. Shield generators failed under sustained impacts. Then came the real surprise. Commander Haiyan Wu Kang had positioned his stealth ship perfectly. When a Council destroyer's shields flickered under the debris assault, he fired a single fusion reactor rigged as a bomb. The detonation was spectacular. The destroyer split in half, both sections spinning away, trailing fire and bodies. The Council fleet formation broke. For the first time, they scattered, their perfect coordination disrupted by fear. While the space battle raged, Su Jin and her team launched from hidden positions on the dark side of Earth's moon. Their stealth pods were basically coffins with engines, barely shielded, completely unarmed. But they were small and fast and coated with materials that scattered sensor beams. Most of the pods were destroyed during the approach. But 7 made it through, latching onto Council ships like ticks on a dog. Su Jin's pod attached to a Council troop carrier. She and 3 other operatives used simple cutting torches to breach the hull. When atmosphere hissed out, they pushed inside, magnetic boots clamping to the walls. The Council troops inside were not prepared for boarding actions. Their species had fought wars in space, ship against ship, for millennia. They had never experienced enemy soldiers inside their vessels. Su Jin's team moved through the corridors with brutal efficiency. They carried basic ballistic weapons, simple guns that fired metal projectiles. The Council soldiers had energy shields designed to stop energy weapons, but bullets passed right through them. The fighting was savage and close. In the tight confines of the ship, the Council's superior technology meant nothing. Human soldiers had trained for centuries in this kind of combat. The aliens had not died within 30 minutes. Su Jin's team had captured the ship's engineering section. She placed charges on the reactor core and set a timer. "Evacuation complete," she reported to J1. "The ship is yours in 5 minutes." The troop carrier exploded from within, taking 2 nearby Council frigates with it in the blast. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human teams boarded Council vessels through breaches, airlocks, and docking ports. They fought with knives when their guns ran empty. They used explosives, fire, and in one case, simply vented the atmosphere from entire sections. The Council had never faced an enemy that fought this way. Their military doctrine had no defense against it. Their soldiers, accustomed to clean, technological warfare, broke and ran from humans who seemed to feel no fear. Meanwhile, engineer Minna Park worked frantically in Earth's orbital shipyards. She was J1's daughter, and she had inherited his tactical mind. She had an idea that was either brilliant or insane. "We can weaponize FTL jumps," she explained to her engineering team. "If a ship enters faster than light travel and immediately self-destructs mid-jump, it creates a spatial tear. Anything near the tear gets shredded." "That would require precise timing," one engineer objected. "And we'd lose the ship and its crew." "We're losing ships anyway," Minna said grimly. "At least this way, they take enemies with them." She rigged 3 damaged frigates with the modified jump drives. Each ship needed only a single pilot, volunteers who knew they were not coming back. The first test was devastating. The frigate jumped toward the Council flagship, appeared for a split second inside the enemy formation, then detonated its jump drive. Space itself tore open. The spatial distortion caught 4 Council destroyers, ripping them apart at the molecular level. Yuna Choi, still flying her battered fighter, watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. "Minna, that was beautiful and terrifying." "I know," Minna replied quietly. "I'll have nightmares about it forever." But it works. The Council fleet was in chaos now. Their numerical advantage meant nothing against enemies who fought without rules, without honor, without any concern for their own survival. Every human ship was a potential suicide weapon. Every human soldier was willing to die to take enemies with them. Vexthera broadcast again. And this time, the crystalline being's voice carried something unmistakable. Fear. "Cease this madness," Vexthara demanded. "We can negotiate. We can reach an agreement." J1's response was cold. "You came here to exterminate us. You killed millions of our people. Now you want to negotiate? No. Now you learn what it means to fight humans." Commander Hyanwu had been studying the Council communication network throughout the battle. He finally found what he was looking for. The quantum link that connected all their ships ran through relay nodes positioned throughout their formation. "Captain," he transmitted, "I can disrupt their network. I need a distraction, something big enough to draw their attention away from their relay nodes." J1 smiled. He knew exactly what to do. "All ships, prepare for Alpha Strike on the flagship. Everything we have. Make them think we're going for broke." The human fleet surged forward in a coordinated assault. The Council fleet turned to meet them, concentrating their defenses. And in that moment, Hyanwu's stealth ship slipped through the chaos and destroyed 3 relay nodes with precisely aimed shots. The Council fleet's perfect coordination shattered. Ships began firing at each other by accident. Formations collapsed. Chaos reigned, and humanity pressed their advantage without mercy. J1 had ordered the complete evacuation of Earth's moon 3 days earlier. At the time, people thought he was crazy. The moon housed research stations, mining operations, and over 50,000 workers. Moving them all seemed like a waste of resources during a battle for survival. But J1 was not crazy. He was thinking ahead. The engineers worked for 72 hours straight, placing nuclear warheads in carefully calculated positions across the lunar surface and deep within its core. Hundreds of bombs, each one positioned to create maximum disruption. They turned Earth's moon into the largest explosive device humanity had ever built. When the Council fleet passed near the moon, drawn by the apparent retreat of the human defense forces, J1 gave the order: detonate. The moon did not explode in the traditional sense. Instead, carefully shaped nuclear blasts created electromagnetic pulses that radiated outward in overlapping waves. The result was a directed energy burst powerful enough to fry every unshielded electronic system within 1,000 kilometers. And the Council ships, their shields focused outward against weapons fire, had not protected their quantum communication arrays from an attack coming from inside there. Formation. Every ship in the Council fleet lost connection to the central network simultaneously. For a civilization that had relied on perfect coordination for millions of years, the result was catastrophic. Council ships drifted, their captains suddenly forced to make independent decisions without orders from above. Some attempted to continue fighting. Others retreated. Several collided with each other in the confusion. The Council fleet, 300 ships strong, became 300 individual vessels with no unified command. Fleet Commander Ki Young-han had been waiting for exactly this moment. He commanded Earth's guerrilla strike forces, small fast ships crewed by veterans who specialized in hit-and-run tactics. All units, Ki Young broadcast. They're blind and confused. Attack now. Target their command ships. Destroy their ability to reorganize. His forces struck like wolves attacking a scattered herd. They did not fight fair. They targeted life support systems, vented atmosphere from captured sections, hacked into enemy computers, and overloaded their reactors. They broadcast horrible sounds on Council frequencies, psychological warfare designed to terrify, and it worked. Council captains who had never known defeat began making mistakes. They panicked. They fired on allied ships by accident. They abandoned positions that could have been defended. The discipline that had served them for millennia evaporated in the face of an enemy that fought without mercy or rules. Sujin's boarding teams became a nightmare for the Council. Every shadow might hide a human soldier. Every corridor could be a trap. The Council troops, trained for organized warfare, found themselves fighting guerrilla battles inside their own ships. One Council captain tried to flush human borders by venting all atmosphere from his ship. Sujin's team simply put on their helmets and continued fighting in vacuum while the Council crew suffocated. Another captain attempted to trap human soldiers by sealing blast doors. The humans used their cutting torches to breach through the walls instead, attacking from unexpected directions. The psychological impact was devastating. Council soldiers began surrendering rather than face the humans in close combat. Entire crews abandoned their posts. Ships went dead in space, their crews fleeing in escape pods. Elder Witness Morth watched from the Council's home worlds, millions of light years away. As the official historian of the Council, it was his duty to record all significant events. This battle was certainly significant, but what he saw disturbed him deeply. The humans were not just fighting. They were teaching the galaxy a terrible lesson. For 3 million years, the Council had ruled through the threat of overwhelming force. Species submitted because resistance seemed impossible. The Council's perfect war machine had never been seriously challenged, until now. Morth began broadcasting his observations to the Council's client species. Those civilizations that served the Council out of fear rather than loyalty. He showed them footage of human fighters ramming Council destroyers. He showed them boarding teams capturing ships 10 times their size. He showed them the moon's detonation that had crippled the mighty Council fleet. His message was clear. The Council could be defeated. Within hours, rebellion began stirring across the galaxy. Species that had submitted generations ago began questioning their servitude. If primitive humans could resist the Council, perhaps others could too. The Council leadership realized their mistake too late. By attempting to destroy humanity as an example, they had instead created inspiration for every oppressed species in known space. Supreme Arbitrator Qualm called an emergency session. The ancient being's light flickered with what might have been fear. "We must negotiate with the humans," Qualm said. "This war is destabilizing the entire galactic order." Overlord Vexthara disagreed. "We cannot negotiate. It would show weakness. We must deploy the Planet Killer." The Planet Killer was the Council's ultimate weapon, a device that could ignite a planet's atmosphere and turn it into a ball of fire. It had been used only twice in galactic history, both times to erase civilizations that had defied the Council. "If we use it," Morth warned, "we prove the humans right. We prove that we are tyrants who destroy anyone who opposes us. Better to be feared as tyrants than laughed at as weaklings," Vexthara replied. The Council voted. The Planet Killer was authorized. The massive weapon was brought from the Council's home fleet and positioned in high orbit above Earth. It charged slowly, building up the energy needed to set an entire atmosphere on fire. The process took hours, and the Council broadcast their intentions on all frequencies. "Humans of Earth." Qualm's voice resonated across every speaker in human space. "You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Disarm completely. Submit to Council occupation. If you refuse, your world burns. Every human on Earth will die. This is your final warning." On Unity 7, Hana collapsed into a chair, her face in her hands. "It's over," she whispered. "We fought so hard, and it's over anyway." But J1 was smiling. "It's not over," he said quietly. "This is exactly what I wanted them to do." He opened the channel to Commander Hyan Wu. "Execute Protocol Scorched Earth." For weeks, while the battle raged in the Sol System, Hyan Wu's stealth ship had been making secret jumps to Council home systems. Each jump, He had deposited packages in carefully chosen locations: asteroids, debris fields, abandoned stations, places where the Council would never think to look. Each package contained a human-made nuclear device and a quantum receiver. "Packages armed," Hyunwoo reported. 217 devices across 47 Council home systems, all awaiting your signal. J1 broadcast to the Council leadership on a secured channel that he knew they would intercept. "Supreme Arbitrator Qualm, I want you to understand something. We put nuclear weapons in orbit around every Council home world. If Earth burns, so do all of you. Every species in your alliance. Gone. You taught us about overwhelming force. Now we're teaching you about mutually assured destruction." Silence fell across the communication channels. "You're bluffing," Vextara said finally. "You could not have infiltrated our home systems." J1 nodded to Hyunwoo, who transmitted targeting data and visual confirmation of 3 devices positioned near different Council worlds. The proof was undeniable. "I'm not bluffing," J1 said calmly. "Fire your planet killer, and my automated systems will detonate every device. Maybe humanity dies, but your civilization definitely dies. All of it. Every world. Every station. Gone." Qualm's light flickered wildly. "This is madness. You would destroy yourselves just to ensure we fall with you?" "Yes," J1 said simply. "That's what you never understood about humans. We don't fight to win. We fight to make sure our enemies lose. If we can't have peace, nobody gets peace." Elder Witness Morth's voice cut through the stunned silence. "This is why you should have left them alone. You called them savages, primitives, warmongers. You were right about all of it. But he thought those traits made them weak. You were wrong. Those traits make them the most dangerous species in the galaxy." He began broadcasting to every species under Council rule. "Look at what humanity has achieved in 72 hours of warfare. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. They were technologically inferior. They should have been exterminated in the first day. Instead, they crippled our fleet, captured our ships, and positioned weapons to destroy our home worlds." Morth's transmission reached billions of beings across the galaxy. "The Council told us they were invincible. The Council told us resistance was impossible. The humans proved them wrong. If they can defy the Council, so can we." Across the galaxy, subject species began to rebel. Small at first, refusing orders, demanding autonomy. But the wave was building. Qualm realized the truth. The war was already lost, not through military defeat, but because humanity had shattered the illusion of Council invincibility. "Stand down, the planet killer," Qualm ordered quietly. "What?" Vextara's voice carried disbelief. "We cannot surrender to primitives." "We have no choice," Qualm said. "They have us in a position where any action we take destroys us. They won't stop fighting. They won't submit. And now the entire galaxy knows we can be resisted." The Council fleet received orders to withdraw from the Sol system. After 3 days of savage warfare, the battle was over. But the real change, the Council fleet withdrew slowly, like a wounded animal backing away from a fight. Their perfect formation was gone. Their ships limped back toward the edge of human territory, many trailing atmosphere and debris. They had come with 300 vessels. They left with 212. The rest were destroyed, captured, or drifting dead in space. Earth was burning, but not from the planet killer. Cities had been hit by orbital strikes. The outer colonies were ruins. Casualty estimates were still climbing, but the numbers already exceeded 20 million dead. The price of victory was written in blood across human space. On Unity 7, J1 stood on the observation deck and watched the Council ships disappear into the darkness. He felt no triumph, only exhaustion and the weight of all those deaths. Hana joined him quietly. She had not slept in 4 days. None of them had. "We won," she said, but her voice carried no joy. "We survived," J1 corrected. "That's not the same as winning." "But they're leaving." "They surrendered." "No," J1 said. "They made a strategic withdrawal." "There's a difference. We hurt them badly enough that continuing the war wasn't worth the cost. But if they could have won easily, they would have kept fighting." He pulled up casualty reports on his datapad. The numbers made him sick. Mars was a graveyard. Europa would take decades to rebuild. The asteroid belt colonies were simply gone, erased from existence. Was it worth it? Hannah asked quietly. J1 considered the question carefully. If we had surrendered, they would have killed us anyway. Slowly, maybe, through occupation and slavery. But we would have died. At least this way, we fought back. We showed them that humans don't go quietly. 6 months passed. Earth rebuilt slowly. The destroyed colonies were memorialized. The dead were honored. Humanity mourned its losses, but also celebrated its survival. The political landscape of the galaxy had changed completely. The Council's client species, inspired by humanity's resistance, began demanding independence. Some negotiated. Others fought. The Council, weakened and divided, could not maintain control over all of them. 3 species achieved complete independence within the first month. 7 more followed. The Council, which had ruled for 3 million years, was fracturing. The Galactic Council convened for an emergency session on their homeworld. For the first time in history, a human representative was invited to attend as an equal member. Ambassador Dae-Young Lee traveled to the council chambers, accompanied by Captain J1 Park and Dr. Hana Kim. They represented humanity's new position in the galaxy, a species that could not be ignored or dismissed. The council chambers were magnificent, a vast space filled with representatives from hundreds of species. But the atmosphere was tense. Many species looked at the human delegation with fear, others with admiration, some with barely concealed hatred. Supreme Arbitrator Qualm floated at the center of the chamber. The ancient being looked diminished somehow, its light less bright than before. "Humans," Qualm said, "you have been granted membership in this council. Not because we wish it, but because you have proven you cannot be excluded. Your species has demonstrated military capability and strategic thinking that commands respect." Dae-Young stood to respond. He had prepared a diplomatic speech, full of reconciliation and hope for the future. But when he opened his mouth, different words came out. "You tried to exterminate us," he said bluntly. "You came to our home with overwhelming force and attempted genocide. We fought back with everything we had. We showed you that humanity will not submit to tyranny, no matter how powerful the tyrant." The chamber fell silent. Several council members made sounds of outrage. But Qualm raised a tendril for silence. "What do you want from us?" Qualm asked. J1 stepped forward. "We want you to remember that we put weapons around your home worlds. Those weapons are still there. We can detonate them anytime we choose." "That is a threat," Vexthara said angrily. "Yes," J1 agreed. "It is. Just like your ultimatum was a threat. Just like your planet killer was a threat. The difference is, we proved we're willing to follow through." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every species representative who would hold his gaze. "Humanity doesn't want war," J1 continued. "We want peace. We want to trade, to learn, to grow. But we will never again be vulnerable. We will never again trust that the Council will protect us. From now on, humanity protects itself." Hana added, "We also want justice for the species you destroyed before us. The 17 civilizations that received the same ultimatum we did. The ones who surrendered and were eliminated anyway. We want their histories preserved and their fates acknowledged. Elder Witness Morth, the council historian, spoke up from his position. I have already begun that work. The truth of the council's actions will be recorded and shared with all species. No more will we hide our sins behind the excuse of maintaining order. Quelm's light flickered with what might have been shame. Very well. Humanity will have full council membership with all rights and protections. We will acknowledge our past atrocities. We will accept your weapons as insurance against future aggression. Is there anything else you demand? J1 smiled without humor. Yes, we want you to be afraid. Every time you look at Earth, every time you consider taking action against any species weaker than yourself, we want you to remember what happened when you tried to destroy humanity. We want that fear to keep you honest. Vexthar's crystalline form vibrated with anger. You dare threaten the entire council? I don't threaten, J1 said calmly. I promise. You taught us that overwhelming force is the only language that matters in this galaxy. We learned that lesson well. Now you get to live with the consequences. The session ended with tension thick enough to cut, but agreements were signed. Humanity was officially recognized as a sovereign species with full rights in the galactic community. As they left the council chambers, Hannah pulled J1 aside. Do you really think we can maintain this stance? Threatening the entire galaxy? We have to, J1 said. Fear is the only thing keeping us safe right now. If they ever stop being afraid of us, they'll try again. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not for 100 years. But eventually, they'll convince themselves that we're still primitive, still weak. And then we'll have to fight this war all over again. They Jung joined them. There's already talk among the former client species. They want to form an alliance with us. A coalition of species dedicated to preventing council tyranny. That could work, Hannah said hopefully. Strength in numbers. Or it could paint an even bigger target on our backs, J1 countered. But we don't have much choice. We either build alliances or stand alone. And standing alone against the council only works as long as they believe we're crazy enough to destroy everything. Are we? Hannah asked. Crazy enough, I mean. J1 considered the question. 3 months ago, I would have said no. But I watched 20 million humans die. I ordered tactics that killed thousands of our own people. I rigged our moon to explode and threatened to destroy 47 worlds. So yeah, maybe we are crazy enough. Or maybe we're just desperate enough that there's no difference. Years passed. The galaxy settled into a new normal. The council still existed, but their absolute authority was broken. Species negotiated from positions of strength now, knowing that resistance was possible. The threat of rebellion kept the council from their worst excesses. Humanity became known throughout the galaxy for two things: their willingness to help species seeking independence, and their absolute refusal to be threatened. Human warships patrolled their territory with weapons always ready. The nuclear devices around council worlds remained active. A constant reminder of humanity's promise. New species entering the galactic community were taught a simple lesson: treat humans with respect, and they will be valuable allies. Threaten humans, and they will burn your civilization to ash without hesitation. The term human solution entered galactic vocabulary. It meant a response so disproportionate, so savage, that it made the original problem irrelevant. If you attacked humans expecting a measured response, you would instead receive total war. Lieutenant Yuna Choi, promoted to captain after her heroism in battle, trained a new generation of pilots. She taught them the tactics that had worked against the council: ramming attacks, suicide runs, kamikaze strategies. The kind of warfare that made other species uncomfortable but kept humanity alive. Engineer Minna Park continued developing weapons that other species considered too dangerous or too insane. weaponized FTL jumps, quantum mines, devices that could tear holes in space itself. Her philosophy was simple. If the Council had better technology, humanity needed crazier ideas. Special Operative Su Jin Nam became a legend in the intelligence community. She trained boarding teams for dozens of allied species, teaching them human close-quarters combat tactics. The Council learned to fear any ship that had human advisors aboard. Commander Hyam Wu Kang kept the Silent Shadow operating in Council space, maintaining the network of hidden weapons and gathering intelligence. His reports kept humanity informed of Council movements and intentions. He was the knife at the Council's throat, invisible but always present. Admiral Bar Song rebuilt the lunar defense fleet into the most feared military force in known space. Other specie